So, hello everybody, welcome back to Law Hero. My name is Jen, and I'm very happy to be here today to discuss a request. So, I put out on Instagram a question. Do you have some suggestions for a YouTube video? And this is the following. This is one of the messages I got, which I really liked. Out of some of them I got, I'm going to address the others. So if you've sent me something, I'll address it, but I like this one. So it said, "Hey Jen, I love to hear your perspective on how to deal with making stupid mistakes as a trainee." Now, first of all, stupid mistakes, silly mistakes, big mistakes, small mistakes, it doesn't matter. They're all mistakes. And a mistake is basically when your perception is out of alignment with reality, in that what you've done is factually incorrect. Now, some people, not to get too philosophical on this, but to me, a mistake might be different to your mistake, okay? That's all I'm saying. Mistake is all about perception. Depending on your mindset, you could make a mistake and you wouldn't even know it's a mistake, okay? That's just the first thing I'm going to say. I know so many people say it is inevitable, however. This doesn't stop you feeling as though you want the ground to swallow you up after it happens. So this person has accepted that mistakes are inevitable, but still suffers the emotional consequence after they've made it. Stupid mistakes I'm talking about maybe something as basic as misunderstanding an amendment in legislation, misreading a Roman numeral, or using the wrong piece of law for your research and then going back to your partner with the wrong stuff. As a trainee in one of the big firms, I'd love to hear about it in general, but also if there's any big firm specific ways to deal with it. Probably naive, but I feel the working from home situation lends itself more to these types of mistakes. Could be wrong though. Thanks a mil for all the content and hope all going well. So first of all, I live for these types of messages. This is why I set up my whole channel. I love getting questions like that. Okay. So rather than conceptualize mistakes, which is my natural inclination, I've said a lot of the times before, when you make a mistake, own up straight away. And how you do that is, it's going to be very difficult at the start, but then it'll actually become a habit, and you'll stop attaching emotion or feeling to it. And let me just explain why I keep using the word emotion, okay? If you make mistakes and you're emotionless, it's not that big of a deal to you. If you make a mistake and you attach it to an emotion, and when I say emotion, I mean emotion means something is moving inside you, if something is off, which drives up your heart rate because you sense that there's danger coming. It's a survival mechanism, okay? So, you know, when you've sent an email to the whole firm, I'm going to use that example because this is what I've done. I sent an email to the whole firm, okay? I realized it had happened. And I remember physiologically, I could feel my stomach drop, as in I could feel a drop in my physiology. And then what happens is your heart rate goes up, you start sweating. So that's the physiological impact. And the reason that's happening is because you're gone into survival mode, because you feel like you're going to lose something. As in, you're going to lose your job. You're going to not have income. If you don't have income, you don't have food. If you don't have food, you're going to die. Survival mode. And if I had known that at the time, I'd be like, okay, this is my caveman kicking in. I'm not going to die. Even if you know you're not going to die, the second physiological or biological hardwired sense is that you're going to be kicked out of the tribe. It's your reputation, social status. The reason I'm going through all of this is I want you to understand where this conceptualization of mistake comes from. And then we're going to go up, because if you don't know this, you can't address it, okay? Number one is you think you're going to die. Number two, you think you're going to be kicked out of the tribe because you are stupid. So you are less intelligent than the other tribe members, and they are going to just leave you in the desert and go off without you, and then you're going to die again. Okay, so there's two reasons here you think you're going to die. That also feeds into your mating abilities, because if you were seen as a lesser mate, as in sexually, to your tribe, you're not going to have offspring, they're not going to be able to look after you in old age, and then you're going to die. Okay, so all of this actually comes back to self-preservation. We don't want to make mistakes because we want to preserve our sense of self to ourselves and to the outside world. And that sense of perception actually makes it easier to deal with mistakes, because if you have that perspective that, okay, I am hardwired to react like this when I make a mistake, and also my perception of mistake is driven by society, it won't be so bad. So I last week sent an email to my whole business, and I just didn't care. Whereas 5 years ago, if I had done that, I would be like, oh, my life is over, I'm going to die. So what changed for me in those 5 years? Because the way this person is talking is the way I used to talk. Stupid mistake, I didn't know the Roman numeral, I didn't know the law, I made a mistake, I came to the partner with the wrong answer. 5 years from now, this person will not think like that. And what happened in the intervening time was the following. Your perception changed because your experience grew, and you also learned more about people. Number two, you become more competent in the law, and you become more confident in your abilities. And number three, you develop more of a sense of self, so that if people judge you for your objective mistakes, that's their problem and not yours. I've read some books about how to handle a traineeship, and I think they're terrible. I think they're absolutely terrible. And the reason is because they externalize behavior. And what I mean by that is, remember I was reading this one book. So I bought every single book about traineeships from Amazon when I started Law Hero, because I wanted to see what other people were saying, and I disagreed with all of it. I really, really did. There was one chapter in one of the books, like how to have a good traineeship. I can't recall the title, but the chapter was about the different types of partners in a law firm. There's like the dickhead partner, there's the docile partner, there's the inclusivity partner. Like, it totally put people into groups and labeled them, which is always a dangerous thing. Humans are multifaceted, you know, like you're not just a solicitor, you could be a pet owner, a daughter, a mother, a brother, you could be, I don't know, like an activist, a volunteer, a politician. Like it's really, really not good to label people based on their behavior. And that's what this book sought to do. And then it told the trainee to adapt their communication style vis-a-vis the partner. That is not how you approach life. You don't amend or change yourself to suit other people's personalities. Their personality is their thing. Your personality and your frame of reference is your thing, okay? It's very, very important that you look inward and not look outward. And that was my whole gripe with these trainee books. It was all about, this is how you handle dickheads. This is how you handle nice people. It never once mentioned how you handle yourself. And that is my answer to this question. I would turn it all back on you and say, why are you calling it a stupid mistake? Because what you're actually doing is calling yourself stupid, which is a lack of compassion for yourself, a lack of understanding of human nature, which is, we have to try it. Like, even the word mistake, it's ridiculous, because if you look at any of the great people out there, like, for example, Nelson Mandela said, You never fail, you only win or you learn. So there is no such thing as a mistake. Like when I say mistake, I mean like spelling mistake, which is objectively obvious to the world that that's an error. But interpreting something in a way that other people don't interpret, or whatever, Roman numerals, that is so ridiculously small and insignificant in the grander scheme of things, it really isn't worth spending your mental energy on that. But as I said, that realization only comes when you do the inward work. So let's talk practical here. How do you handle pressure and mistakes and all of that? Okay, so I would say the very, very first thing you need to do is check in with yourself. Do you have a negative frame of reference around making mistakes? Please remember that this comes back to your childhood. At childhood, if you break something, if you break a cup off the floor, your parent will be like, what did you do? You broke something. And you internalize that very young, that, if I make a mistake, I'm gonna be punished for it. And then when a visitor comes to the house and they break something, your parent is like, oh, don't worry about it. You just broke a cup. Yeah, we can replace it, no bother. Behave towards yourself as if you're the parent who's speaking to that visitor who's broken a cup. It means nothing, we can replace it, it's just a flippin' cup. Don't be like that child, that 4 or 5 year old child who has just broken that cup and wants the ground to open them up, because that is their only frame of reference. All they had was their parent to tell them what was right or wrong. Boom, when I break a cup, it's wrong. I am a useless human being. You need to change the voice inside your head, your inner parent, and you need to heal your inner child. The conceptualization of mistakes comes from childhood. And when I realized that, it was extremely powerful. If you look to anybody, they always say you have to heal your inner child. Like, this is a massive psychological argument, but all psychosis, all neurosis comes from childhood, okay? Your frame of reference comes from childhood. You need to adapt that, okay? When you make a mistake and you haven't done that work, you're gonna feel that drop in your stomach. You're gonna feel the rush of adrenaline because you're trying to go into survival mode. You won't have to do that if you've taught yourself that making mistakes is not a big deal, okay? You won't have that physiological response. Mistakes, as in making objective mistakes, as in spelling mistakes, all of that, not picking up on something, not responding to something correctly, often happen when you're in a state of stress, anxiety, or pressure. So we'll say, and like what you want to really do is reduce the amount of mistakes you make in order to reduce this, worry that you're off the right path. I've written countless articles on stress, because in a state of stress, you will more likely make mistakes. And this is because your heart rate is up, the blood is no longer going towards your head, it is going through your vital organ, which is your heart. And that takes away logic from the frontal lobe, which is where you make logical decisions. And basically, you're useless for problem solving, which is the process of logic. That's why I wear heart rate, because I want to understand where my heart rate variability is at. And if my heart rate variability is low, that means I can problem solve better. How you do this? You learn how to breathe, bring more oxygen into the blood to bring down the heart rate. It helps if you're fit, because the more fit you are, the more oxygen is in your blood. But that's a whole other discussion. I can teach you guys how to decrease your heart rate variability if you want, because in my opinion, that's how you ultimately reduce mistakes. It's being mindful. But yeah, that would be my answer to that. It probably was not what you expected, but I spent the whole week thinking about it, and that was my ultimate conclusion. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.